It's not about the technique. It's not about the list of questions, right? It's about being present when the prospect is talking. It's about truly listening to what's being said and what's not being said. Understand the stage and phase of the business that prospect is in, and really empathize to a factor of 11. And once you understand them and you can start speaking their language about their problems, the sales close themselves.
A lot of us fall into that trap of like, man, if I niche down, if I get specific, if I get polarizing, then there's people that aren't going to hire me. You don't want all the clients. You want the clients that resonate with you. And even if, here's the thing, if you say something polarizing, the fact that you are showing up and just being honest, that is the thing that might connect with somebody.
This whole concept of building up a certain level of market eminence, which I really call it, it's a combination of visibility, credibility, and brand preference. That makes everything in the sales process so much easier because people come in pre-sold, not necessarily on your product or your service, but they're certainly pre-sold on you.
On episode 471 of the podcast, we talk about, on this episode, why being divisive with your values is actually your biggest sales advantage. We also go over how to escape the feast or famine cycle by building genuine relationships first, and then the simple mindset shift that transforms sales from pushy to natural. All that and so much more on this episode of the podcast. What up, friend? Welcome to the Grow Your Video Business Show. I'm your host, Ryan Coral. Like it or not, here we are. I'm grateful to be able to do this show. Shoot, is this the first episode of the year? Of the new year? I think this is. Happy New Year! My family is probably like, why is he yelling again? I am grateful. This year is gonna be my best year. It's gonna be your best year. Let's believe it. And let's do the things that we need to do to make it great, okay? All right, so this is a jam-packed episode. Lots of stuff here. Before we get into the episode, I wanna invite you to, I am sharing with you a walkthrough of a six-figure, $100,000 budgeted project that we sold for $100,000. I'm gonna do a walkthrough so you just get some insider scoop, and hopefully you walk away inspired and you have some ideas on how you can do something similar. You might just look at what I did and be like, this is ridiculous, I would never want to do that. But anyway, you can get access to that by going to studiosherpas.com/100K. 100K, studiosherpas.com/100K. That is my gift to you. Let's kick off the new year with this idea of like, this is gonna be, if you haven't booked a six-figure job yet, let's do it, okay? And it doesn't have to be, so here's what I'm gonna, spoiler alert, it doesn't have to be one massive production where you've got 25 people on set for a full day and you're creating a 30-second spot. It doesn't have to be that for $100,000. It can be something quite different, and I think you might be surprised. So check that out, studiosherpas.com/100K. Let's get into today's episode. Super happy you're here. Happy New Year. Let's go. What's up, my friend? Hey, welcome to another episode of the show. Today with me is David Newman, who is a certified speaking professional. There's no mess ups here. We're professional. It's certified professional, certified speaking professional. He's a keynote speaker, and he is host of the podcast, The Selling Show. David, what's up, man? Welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
Ryan, it is great to be here. We are having fun already. We haven't got past the intro, and we're already having fun. Yeah. You know this is gonna be good.
I was probably having a little too much fun with, your the thing. So I apologize if that was too much.
All good, all fun.
So you speak on stages. You have this platform. You've got a great presence about. You've already complimented me plenty of times before we even hit record. Thank you. What's the thing that drives you? Like when you get to work with people in the work that you do, the transformation that you see, like what gets you excited?
So I started this business 23 years ago. I had a 10-year corporate career, then I jumped into entrepreneurship. And I think to answer your question, Ryan, when I look back on myself 23 years ago, totally clueless about marketing, sales, business development. I knew nothing about how to be an entrepreneur. I made all the mistakes in the book. I made the good ones twice. If there was a dead end, if there was a brick wall, if there was a manhole cover, I fell into it. I bumped into it, bumps, bruises, etc. So today, knowing what I know now about marketing and sales and personal branding, platform building, all of these different things, I'm looking back on that poor sap that I was in 2002, and I say, okay, what can I do to help that guy? What can I do to help people who are great at the work of the work, but they're not really great at the marketing and the selling? In fact, some people even hate the selling part, and they would rather do anything else. And they're like, well, couldn't I just outsource that? Couldn't I just get a salesperson?
Oh my gosh.
And my answer is, any salesperson worth their weight is going to say, well, Ryan, really glad to be on board here. How do you sell this? What do you say? What do you, what's your unique value proposition? What separates you from all the other video agencies that I could choose from, et cetera? And then they go, oh, they're going to want me to provide those answers? It's like, yes. They're even going to ask you questions like, hey, what's your closing ratio, right? What's the closing ratio that I should aim for? How many meetings lead to proposals, lead to clients, lead to repeat business, lead to referrals, lead to whatever? And again, me 23 years ago, I'd be like, blah, 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 I have no idea what you're talking about. So I'm trying to help those folks that are sales averse, love the work of the work, but really need some encouragement and love and tactics and strategies to put themselves at the top of their industry.
Oh man, I love that. Even as you were talking about all those questions that a good salesperson would ask. My one friend in particular, Jimmy, we had multiple conversations, especially early on, about him coming here to help. And he would ask me all this. I'm like, dude, just like you figure it out. Like, we've got a great thing going over here. Like, just sell it and get me out of the thing. So I know that feeling resonates and that desire resonates with so many creatives. You said something interesting. You said, love the work of the work.
Yes.
And I think that if you asked me, Ryan, do you want to sell? Like, no, I hate selling. Like, I hate trying to convince, like my old definition of selling was like trying to convince somebody of something that they didn't want or need, right? If I could get them to that place where they realize that, oh, okay, maybe this is valuable. And okay, maybe I should spend, like, I hated that. That was just, it just felt wrong in so many ways. But if you asked me, like, why do you care about this work? And what's your mission behind what you do? I would easily, rattle off a bunch of things, like why I care about this.
Yeah.
And if you can articulate that for somebody, it's going to be really hard to get for a salesperson at the start to be able to articulate your vision and your passion. But if you can start to articulate your why, that for you, it's probably going to make selling feel a lot easier.
Yeah.
And then that's something that you can teach somebody else. But to just out of the gate, like, hey, just sell the service, the thing that we do, it's like, yeah, but we're like, what makes us different? Or like, why do we care about, how do we approach the work? Or like all of that stuff. I think you hit the nail on the head. And I just love us to be thinking about what we do in that way, because if it's framed that way, like, hey, just tell me why you care. Like, you love this work. Why do you love it? That becomes, it's like, wait, is that like helpful sales language for me to communicate that?
Yes.
Might want or need our service?
Well, it's so funny that you say this. So my previous book, which is called Do It Selling, I talk about reframing the sales process as the first phase of delivery. So if you never had to sell again, you treat every prospect like they're already a client, and you just sit down and you say, okay, what are we trying to accomplish? What have you done before? What has worked? What hasn't worked? Why do you think that hasn't worked? Have you experimented with video before? Was it with another agency? Was it do it yourself? Were you just shooting things on your iPhone? What was going on? Where would you like to go next? What problems are we trying to solve? What symptoms are we trying to cure? What outcomes are we trying to create? If you did that as your sales process, that's not after you get the check. That is before you get the check. So as soon as I lay out this process, a lot of the people that I work with say, well, what you're describing, David, is you're describing my onboarding meeting. I'm like, right. And the onboarding meeting happens after you've gotten the check. What if that was so powerful, so exciting, so persuasive, so filled with potential and possibility that you move that to before you get the check, and now we call it your sales process? Do you think you would get more clients? Do you think you would convert more of the people that you're already talking to? Yes. How do you feel those people would feel on the receiving end of that quote unquote sales process? They would feel excited. They would feel energized. It wouldn't be a pushy, salesy, manipulative sales process. It would be an exciting, energizing preview or sample of the way that we work once they become a client. So the mantra, just to kind of wrap this up, the mantra is, if you treat prospects like clients, you will get a lot more clients.
Dude, I mean, we could literally just end this
That's
episode.
the episode, buddy. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Dude,
until next time.
I'm serious. It's like question-based selling, this idea that if you want to be interesting, be interested, right? You can't, video is not the solution for all the things. Well, no, it can be, but if you don't know what the things are, prescribing a solution it's just going to feel like meh. It's going to feel like generic. It's going to feel like the client's not going to be, but when you understand them and their pain points and their frustrations and their struggles and the things that they've tried and what has worked, what hasn't worked, dude, that list of questions, like if somebody came to a discovery call, if any of us came to a discovery call and asked a third, a quarter, a tenth of those questions, you would be able to provide solutions. Hey, you said, earlier when we were talking, you said that, you tried this. Well, you were missing one key element based on, what I know, what I've seen, what other clients have. It's like you're speaking from a place of expertise versus just like trying to sell yourself on like, well, look at the work and the awards, and we've been doing this for a long time, and people hire us, so you should too. It's like,
right?
Wait, what? That's not helpful.
Right? Exactly. Well, and I think one of the things I talk about with this new work around market eminence is, how do you separate yourself from everyone else who either does what you do or who looks like they do what you do? One of the great ways to separate yourself is, what is that first conversation? So when you have that initial sales as service, I call that sales as service, right? Where the sales process is actually your first moment of service delivery, as if they're already a client. They will say to you, usually, Ryan, this just feels completely different than any other sales conversation I've had with any other video company. And when they tell you this feels different than any other sales conversation, you are 80% of the way home. You don't need to worry about closing the deal. You don't need to worry about negotiating or caving on price or anything. You basically have them at hello, because you've differentiated yourself not only in the service, but you've differentiated yourself in how you connect with them and how you have that initial conversation where there's this concept of buyer safety, where they don't feel pressure. They don't feel weirdness. They don't feel that their shields need to go up and like, wait a minute, here comes the pitch. The pitch is coming. I know it's in here somewhere. But that sense of buyer safety, where their shoulders go down, their shields are not raised, they're actually listening, they're actually sharing, they're actually being vulnerable with what they want, what they need. why they're frustrated, what this ultimate outcome would really look like for them, what would it mean for them, what would it do for them. So that's the other kind of reframing in this whole concept around market eminence. Whatever it is that we do, stop talking about what it is. Stop talking about the stuff. Stop talking about what you get. Stop talking about deliverables. Start talking about your work. Start talking about it in terms of what it does. So what does it activate? What does it catalyze? What does it cause to happen? So what it does and what it means. So that means you will no longer ever be looking at an empty pipeline of work. That means that your team will always feel energized, excited, and enthusiastic about the work that they're doing. You will never have to go, knocking on doors like commodity vendor or service provider. So that mantra is stop talking about what it is. Start talking about what it does and what it means. That also transforms and elevates people into this rarefied air of market eminence.
Dude, okay, we could stop the episode there. Sarah,
that's 2 episodes down. Who knows how many more to go?
It's really good, man. Yeah, we've been talking about this. I've been selling for 20 plus years in this business, and it wasn't even until probably the last year and a half, and this is so embarrassing, but probably in the last year and a half, maybe 2 years, where I've really realized that people aren't buying a video, they're buying the solution that it provides. And you've just brilliantly packaged it together there. What does it mean too? Like that's the part that I sort of have been leaving out. So that's really, really good. I think that when I used to, I had a list of questions that I would want to ask a client, and I would get to trying to ask them the budget that they were looking to spend, on this video. And then maybe they would answer it, maybe they wouldn't. But then, I would try to understand, well, how much you spend in marketing overall. And those questions were really self-serving because I wanted to figure out, do they even have a budget for what we do? And they probably felt that as I was asking them. Now I ask those questions without it. I don't skip a beat. I ask those questions really to understand better. Where are they coming from? What's been working, what's not? Not like, how do I, squeeze all the juice out of the milk bone, or whatever the saying is. But really to understand, where are they at, and can we help them, and how can we help them? And so just even that little bit of energy comes across very, very differently, where I'm really trying to understand them and where they're coming from so that I can serve them better.
Absolutely right. One of the mantras, one of my early mentors said this to me about sales. Because, I was a very serious student. Once I realized that I have to learn this marketing thing, I have to learn this selling thing. He said, David, you're really an A student when it comes to being a better salesperson. And I thought this was a compliment, but here's where it went.
But
he says to me, I want you to not worry so much about being a good salesperson. Worry about being a good person, and more sales are going to happen. That was profound. That was like, whoa. It's not about the technique. It's not about the list of questions, right? It's not about the little mental wheels that are spinning as the prospect is talking. It's about being present when the prospect is talking. It's about truly listening to what's being said and what's not being said, and how what's being said is being said. It's about sort of reading between the lines. It's about being an empathetic listener and putting yourself in their shoes. Like, what must that feel like? What must that frustration feel like? What must that ambition, right? That driving ambition to do better and reach more people, and whatever it is that our video services are doing for people, understand the stage and phase of the business that prospect is in, and really empathize to a factor of 11. And once you understand them and you can start speaking their language about their problems, the sales close themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. I was about to say I love that, but now stuck in my head is one of the guys in my mastermind the other day made fun of me because he says, you always say that. And I'm like, dang it. But I do. I love that. So I'm going to say it.
You got to own it. You got to own it. I must say,
right.
I love that about 10 times per 40-minute episode on my show.
All right. So we are the same.
I love that.
It's so good.
You and I should get t-shirts. You and I should get t-shirts that say, I heart that! Exclamation.
There we go. That's it. I love that. I'm furiously writing notes. Being fully present, so I'm trying to take notes of things that are popping in my head. But I think that idea of being fully present in a discovery call meeting or whatever you want to call it with a client. The beautiful thing is that, I don't know for you, but we used to, before COVID, 90% of our meetings were in person. They were at our studio, or we would be going to somebody's place of business. And now, we've got these note takers, like AI note takers, so you literally can like put the pencil down and stop feeling like you've got to capture every nuance. And then the other thing, like a recommendation that I have that I wish I would have known much sooner, so much sooner. I always felt like I had to give a number or give the offer, like, okay, so based on what you're saying, like, I just felt this pressure. And a lot of times, they would just ask me like, so how much is this going to cost? Free yourself of that. Like, you don't have to give that on the call. Say, hey, you know what? I want to spend more time with this. Really, I want to reflect on the notes. We've got this amazing note taker, to capture some of the nuances that maybe I wasn't paying attention to as I was just really leaning in to you and trying to be right with you in those moments. So I would just want to give this more time, more energy, and really think through what is going to be best for you.
Yeah.
We've got some packages right off the wall or off the shelf that you can get, but I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. So that freedom, oh my gosh, that was huge for me when I started realizing that I didn't have to, I wasn't pigeonholed, because as soon as you say a price, then their price anchoring is in effect, and then you're kind of locked into that. And then you realize later, like, oh man, I'm leaving money on the table. Like, they really need this and this. And just free yourself of that and say, hey, let me get back to you. Let me follow up. The other part that I wanted to add is that as you're asking all of those questions and really getting a good sense of where these people are at, the follow-up email, like whatever, I hate circling back and following up and, the client's ghosting you. They're not getting back to you. You had this great conversation, but now it's in service to them when you reach back out and say, hey, based on our conversation, you said that this was something that you needed to do within the next 30 days. And based on what we chatted about, and you're able to identify, instead of just make assumptions or, best practices, after we talk to somebody 7 days later, like, this is when we typically close the deal. So like, where are you guys at? What are you ready to make a decision? It's like, no. Remember, they said this is like a 6-month process. They're vetting, it's because you did your due diligence and asked them, so that when you do follow up or circle back or whatever, it really is in service to what you already know because of the questions that you asked and what they shared with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I want to talk about ghosting though for a minute. So,
yeah, please.
So, and this ties in with positioning and differentiation and really putting yourself in a category of one. Movie star of your choice. So we can go George Clooney, we can go Scarlett Johansson, whatever gender you prefer.
Let's go Scarlett.
Do you think?
Oh, yeah, you're just throwing this out
there. Are you
okay.
kidding? Totally. So, so how often do you think Scarlett Johansson gets ghosted? How often do you think people sort of trail off and like never respond to one of her emails? And that's not necessarily because she's a brilliant salesperson. That's because of all of the pre-indoctrination that has happened before you ever have a conversation with Scarlett, right? So this is where positioning, differentiation, niching down, focusing, essentially becoming a business celebrity. That pre-work, that's what I call the work before the work, right? And it makes everything easier, Ryan. It makes it easier to certainly for getting prospects. It makes it easier when you're going to the market for hiring because top talent is also paying attention to the landscape. It's much easier to get investors if your firm is looking to raise money. It's even if you're looking to get acquired or get bought out at some point, it's much easier to get an acquirer who's in alignment with your values and your vision and all of those things. So this whole concept of building up a certain level of market eminence, which I really call it's a combination of visibility, credibility, and brand preference. And we can dig into that if we want to. But that makes everything in the sales process so much easier because people come in pre-sold, not necessarily on your product or your service, but they're certainly pre-sold on you. And they know who you are. They know what you stand for. They know what you stand against. They know who's a perfect fit or at least a good fit, right? Because of the way that you have put all of these signals and markers into the marketplace. So if we're getting strung along, if we're getting hung up on, if we're getting ghosted, that to me, it's not like, oh, well, make more calls so you can get ghosted on more calls. Go to more networking events so you can get ghosted by more of your networking people. You got to work on the internal game of that positioning, differentiation, celebritizing. I just made up a word there. Celebritizing your personal brand that reflects on your company brand. And if you do that, I would say 70% of your sales problems will disappear.
So flesh that. Let's dig into that a little bit. I just want some very practical, like, what does that mean for me? You know, I'm a freelance solopreneur video producer. How do I do that?
Sure. So the answer to all of these problems is this term that I coined, market eminence. And I'll break down the three parts that I mentioned a second ago. The first part is visibility. Visibility simply means that we rarely buy products or services sight unseen. So job number one is to get seen. Raise your visibility, not everywhere, but where your prospects are. So in front of your target market, you want to be like the old Visa commercial, everywhere you want to be. Well, you don't want to be seen everywhere. You want to be seen everywhere where your prospects are. Second part of this is respect. Respect comes from having X-ray vision into your ideal prospect's soul, knowing what they're going through, having a level of empathy that we talked about, really understanding their situation, their circumstances, their pains, problems, heartaches, headaches, challenges, gaps, goals, dreams, hopes, aspirations, and communicating those so effectively that they also automatically give you credit for obviously having the solution. The third piece of this is brand preference. Brand preference is this combination of positioning, differentiation, specificity, knowing their problems better than they know it themselves, so that not only are you the best choice, not only are you the safest choice, but you actually project into the marketplace the notion that it would be risky, dangerous, and dumb to buy from anyone else. Let me repeat that. It would be risky, dangerous, and dumb to buy from anyone else who does what you do because you've built up this level of connection with your target market. And a lot of people say, well, where does that start? That sounds like a pretty tall order, David Newman. Where does this market eminence empire begin? And I'll tell you, it could begin with your next LinkedIn post. It could begin with the next issue of the Substack newsletter that you send out. It could begin with what you have on your About page, on your services page. It could begin anywhere, and it's really baby steps. So even talking about some of the things that we were talking about earlier, Ryan, about what do you believe about your industry, right? What can we do to separate the signal from the noise, separate the myths from the truths? So a lot of people think, well, for example, video, I'll just create a whole bunch of AI videos. You know, AI videos are fun. AI videos are cool. And there's been research that's actually been done on this, that 73% of consumers, both B2B and B2C, 73% that see an AI video from a brand are actually turned off. They're turned off by that brand. Totally inauthentic, totally impersonal, right? And so you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. And we can name 5 or 10 other myths that are out there. It's like, well, just me and Jerry, my intern. Jerry, my intern, has an iPhone. He really knows how to use the editing software. We'll just have all our videos done by Jerry. Well, what's wrong with that, right? Maybe there's some pros, maybe there's some cons. People need to know. Are you that source of truth where you're out there in the marketplace with your manifesto telling people what to think, what to believe, and what not to believe? So separating the myths from the truth, separating the wheat from the chaff. Are you the one that's out there saying, hey, here's how to get ready for what's coming next? A little trend spotting, a little trend watching, helping people see around corners so that they're not blindsided or ambushed or surprised by some nasty trend that's coming to eat their lunch. So one of the things I talk about in the Market Eminence book is we are no longer in the era of how-to. If you're still posting how-to content, stick a fork in it. It is done. AI can do a way better job, times a million, with how-to content. So how-to content has been commoditized. Let's relegate that to AI. What do humans and what do human video business owners, what advantage do they have now? How can they differentiate themselves in such a noisy, crowded, AI-fueled marketplace? It's those 3 areas that I mentioned about visibility and credibility. Number 1, teach people how to think, not just how to, but how to think, how to process, how to strategize, higher level strategic insight, not information, because information is now, instant, free, and perfect. It's perfect unless you count things like math and the truth, because AI still has a problem with math and the problem with the truth. It'll just make stuff up and go crazy. So insight versus information, that's bucket number 1. Number 2, what to believe and what not to believe. Separate the wheat from the chaff, the signal from the noise, the myths from the truths. The world according to you, in other words. What do you believe? Well, what have your experiences and battle scars and war stories taught you about the right way to do the business that you're in? And then the third thing is how to get ready for what's coming next. So trend spotting and being an early warning system so that people feel prepared for the future. If you focus your visibility strategy and respect strategy and brand preference strategy in those 3 buckets, it's amazing that 90% of your competition will become this gray blob in the background. And you are going to be in that top 5 or 10% of bold, clear, technicolor beacons in your industry that will pull in the best fit prospects, talent, media, partners, acquirers, investors, all of those things. So what I'm really saying, to summarize this little rant that I'm on, is you got to be more of who you already are. Stop hiding. Stop trying to blend in. Stop trying so hard to put on that costume of vanilla, because you're not vanilla. You're technicolor, and people need to see that technicolor. Some people will love it. Some people will hate it. But part of this whole game is being polarizing, meaning the people that love you will really, really, really love you, and you're going to get some haters and you're going to get some detractors, and so be it. Every great brand has huge proponents and it has huge detractors. What you don't want to be is vanilla, bland, gray, and middle of the road.
Dude,
that's episode 4.
Episode 4. It makes me like visually. I'm just thinking of a magnet. There's probably a movie or something I've seen. Super large magnet that starts collecting like anything in its path that is metal, and you got paper clips and you've got stapler. You just have like all of these things sticking to the magnet. And when I look at the kind of clients that I want to work with, there are clients that I've loved working with, and there are clients that I can't stand and never, ever, ever want to work with again. I would prefer just not to be in the same room with them.
That's right.
And what you're saying is very hard to swallow,
specifically for, well, I shouldn't even say like people that are newer in business. I think a lot of us fall into that trap of like, man, if I niche down, if I get specific, if I get polarizing, then there's people that aren't going to hire me. And man alive, it's like, first off, how much, how much business do you have? How much capacity do you have? And I think most everybody would raise their hand. Most of the people that I know would say like, I've got room for more clients. You don't want all the clients. You want the clients that resonate with you. And even if, here's the thing, if you say something polarizing, the fact that you are showing up and just being honest, that is the thing that might connect with somebody. They might not agree with how like you're over here on that view or that thought or that idea, but the fact that you're showing up and that you have an opinion versus no, it's just like, I would say like, one of my greatest strengths and one of my greatest weaknesses is I can find the good in all of the things. So I was just making fun of myself earlier today. A former employee that I haven't talked to in years and years liked my recent LinkedIn post. And I'm thinking about this person and I'm like, oh man, that person was not a good fit. They just, it was the first person I let go that I didn't have a good reason outside of like, now we have a word for it. This person was not hungry in our business and just checking the boxes and whatever. So this is a long way of me saying, not all of the people are the right fit. The right ones who see you showing up will say, okay, they're doing it. And that's better than not. And so many of us aren't showing up at all. And then the ones who are showing up aren't taking a stance.
Yes.
But for me, where I struggle is like, I'm like, man, I can find a way to, like pretty much anybody. I would hire anybody. I'm the worst person to hire anybody because I just like all the people. So when it comes to being polarizing, I'm like, well, I don't want to say this because I know that certain people are going to think that what I mean is this, when that's not really totally. I'm more like in the middle when it comes to a lot of things. I'm just like, I see that both sides. I'm like, I don't know if that means I'm, overly empathetic or whatever the thing is. So that for me, I think has been a really big struggle in knowing that, man, if I created more polarizing content, I'd get more likes, shares, annoyed people, all of that, which, all marketing is good marketing or whatever.
So let me share with you. I want to pick up on your magnet metaphor. And when I'm on site with a client, this comes up like in the first 2 hours, almost always. But David, we don't want to turn people away. We don't want to be polarizing. I said, well, okay, hang on. Imagine that there's an electromagnet, right? And this electromagnet is incredibly powerful at pulling in all of your ideal fit prospects, clients, talent, investors, acquirers, partners, media. And this electromagnet has a second side because magnets have two polarities. You turn the magnet around and it has this incredibly repulsive force. It repels and pushes away all of the bad fits. And they still don't get it. And I said, okay, well, listen, let me do a different analogy here. If I was selling a security system and we installed this very powerful gate at the front door of your business, and this gate automatically admitted all of your perfect fit, ideal fit people, and it's automatically, without you having to lift a finger, it kept out all of the terrible employees that you've ever had, all of the nightmare clients that you've ever worked with, all of the terrible partners and bad situations, bad people, bad fit people, bad projects, bad everything. It kept all of those out automatically. So it admitted the perfect fits and it repelled the bad fits and the terrible fits and the nightmare experiences you've had with people and prospects and hires and so forth. Would you buy that security gate? They said, oh my God, that'd be great. That'd be fantastic. I said, that is what we're talking about. We are not going to repel any. So, and I will actually do this on a whiteboard. I will say, just run down, you don't need to use names, run down all the bad hires, bad clients, bad partners, right? Selfish, self-centered, weren't hungry enough, weren't aligned with our values, didn't believe in our process, didn't follow our process, was disrespectful to our staff. And I'll have a list of like 5 or 7 things. And I'll say, do you want to attract or repel more of these people? And now they look at it in writing on the whiteboard and they go, I guess Newman's right. We don't want those people. And I said, okay, so now are you okay being polarizing? Yes. Are you okay being divisive? Now, when I say divisive, this is, I've been doing this for like 10 years, this whole kind of, good fit, bad fit. In this environment, divisive always has kind of a political edge to it, right? So red versus blue, your guy versus my guy, whatever. I said, this has nothing to do with any of that. And what I've been teaching and preaching for at least 10 years is your sales process and your hiring process for that matter. It is not a matter of convincing and persuading. We are not in the convincing and persuading business. We are in the filtering and sorting business. And are you okay if we install this automatic filtering and sorting machine called your point of view, your beliefs, your values, what you stand for, what you stand against? And then people go, oh, filtering and sorting. And then they always ask me one more time, Ryan, it's like, so we're going to attract all the good. Yes, you're going to attract all the good. And we're only keeping out we're only keeping out the bad. And then once they start to implement these ideas, they're operating on a whole different plane at that point. And then they're glad they trusted me. Episode 5.
Episode 5. Dude, that's great. I really love that. Yeah, that's a good, man, it's like so many thoughts. I keep challenging my tribe, all of my video people. Hey, show up for people online. You can serve more of your ideal clients, but only if you're sharing your story, your passion, your why, your perspective, your values, this filtering and sorting idea. I think that really is a concept that I made another note too. Like, I'm like, we've got 3 core values: humble, hungry, heart. I need to make more content around that stuff. I mean, that's for clients, that's for employees. We hire and fire by our core values, and my favorite clients are the ones that embody those 3 core values. So just if that's the only thing I did, I think there is, humble being one of those. It's like, we're not going to draw people that aren't that. And that's great, right. Man. If we, get the egos out of the room, I'm not about that at all.
Right.
And so, yeah, when you frame it like that, I just start thinking, yeah, if I start talking about the things that we've at least identified as like, these are our core values, why not just create content around that? Because I'm not afraid of people knowing those things, and it is polarizing. Or
1,000%. And I think the tagline, Ryan, on that with humble, hungry, and heart, a little asterisk, and you say, there's nothing so much fun as working with and for a narcissistic sociopath. And people go, oh, so you don't want me as a narcissistic sociopath to come work for you? No. You don't want me as a narcissistic sociopath to become one of your clients? No. You don't want me as a partner or an investor to be a narcissistic sociopath? No. So yes, I mean, you put your finger on it 1,000%.
Oh, this is good. This is really good. When you take the stage, I mean, you have a great presence about you. I love just the way that your mind works. This is very fascinating. What would you say if you could only speak on, and this is right now, not or the past, for
Sure.
however long, but you're on a big stage. What's and you don't really know the audience. Audience is a bunch of people, in business, probably a lot of entrepreneurs or whatever. What are you going to speak on? Like what do you want to talk about? What do you want to share with them?
That's an easy answer now, because of course the Market Eminence book is my latest book. And so my first book was about marketing. My second book was about speaking as a lead generator, speaking as a one-to-many sales mechanism. My third book was about sales and selling. So that was the first half of our interview, comes out of the Do It Selling book. But I would say this sort of ties everything together, right? If you want to be I mentioned one of my early mentors said, don't worry about being a better salesperson, be a better person. When you look at the people that you admire the most, right, you can tell their values. They wear their heart on their sleeve. They go to work in service of others. If we just became that kind of entrepreneur, imagine how much easier it would be to stand head and shoulders above the crowd. Imagine how visible you would be if you did that, stood for that, showed up for that, spoke out on that. So even Ryan, when you say, I need to be creating more content around humble heart and hungry, I'm saying, oh my God, hell yes. Hell yes times 100. And, all the different places it shows up when you have an amazing client that just is totally vibing on what you're helping them with. Yeah. When you have an employee, it might even be a very junior level employee who just is so hungry to learn, is so conscientious, comes in early, stays late, loves the work, is very generous with their ideas, very generous with supporting others behind the scenes, celebrating that, amplifying that, publicizing that in the marketplace through video, through social, through articles, through newsletters, through, sales conversations that you have. That is so vitally important. It is so vitally important. So I get excited about this concept of building market eminence, not because you become a better entrepreneur, but your impact will increase. The radiant consequences, right? The ripple effect of your good work will reach so many more people, and you will be a person and a company of such greater significance. That's what I would say to every audience going forward.
That's brilliant. David, this has been so inspiring. Seriously. Well done.
Thank you.
You are excellent.
Episode 6.
For people, you have podcasts, so talk a little bit about that. Let people know where are all the places. Obviously, get the book, Market Eminence.
Market Eminence, yes, sir. So there's a couple of resources. Our main website is Do It Marketing. That's my company name, so doitmarketing.com. All the goodies, downloads, resources, and bonuses that come with the book are at marketeminence.com. And we also have a podcast called The Selling Show, which is, like Ryan said, not about selling products and services, but really about selling ideas. Selling ideas, selling your values, selling your distinction in the marketplace, getting buy-in, overcoming resistance, lowering those shields that we talked about earlier. So it's more than just selling stuff. It's about selling ideas. And that is at thesellingshow.com. And I think everything else is, we have a blog, we have some free downloads, and all of that is also on the main website.
Love it. So good. How do you want to leave us today?
I'm going to leave you with one of my lifetime mantras. So my company is called Do It Marketing. My 3 previous books were Do It This and Do It That. So I'm the Do It guy. It's 3 words that have guided me in even the darkest moments of my entrepreneurial journey, and I think they'll be helpful to you as well. Action eliminates fear. Action eliminates fear. So if you're in a place where you're stuck, fearful, etc., just get into action. Doing anything is better than doing nothing. Yeah. And when you get into action, it gives you data. It gives you feedback that will guide the next action and the next action and the next action. And that's how to get yourself out of a slump and back into your groove.
Dude, yes, let's go. David, thank you so much, man. I'm so glad that we got to meet. I'm so glad we got to have this time. I took a ton of notes. I've got a handful of people in my head. I'm like, I got to send this episode over to a few friends. Thank you. Appreciate you sharing your gift with us today, and just grateful for this.
My pleasure, Ryan. It was so great to be here.
Hey, thanks so much for tuning into this episode of the Grow Your Video Business podcast. If you got something out of today's conversation, do me a favor, share it with a friend or post it on your socials. Tag me at Ryan Coral or at Grow Your Video Business. I'd love to know what resonated with you. If you've got a question or takeaway, drop a comment wherever you're listening or watching this. You can also shoot me a message. I read every single one. And hey, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. We've got more stories, strategies, and behind the scenes insights coming your way to help you build a business that you love. Keep creating, keep sharing your story, and keep showing up. I'm cheering you on. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you next time.